How to talk to people in English. Welcome to my channel, English Audiobooks. You want to speak English with people, but when it's time to talk, your mouth doesn't move. You forget words, you freeze, and inside your head, the voice says, you can't do it. But what if I tell you, step by step you can? You can talk to people in English, even if you don't know many words now. This video will show you exactly how. Comment below. Do you feel nervous when talking to people in English? Yes or no? Chapter 1. When I couldn't say anything. I remember sitting in a room full of people. Everyone was talking. I could hear English words, but I couldn't understand them. My heart beat fast. Someone looked at me and smiled. They said something. Maybe it was a question. Maybe it was something kind. But I didn't answer. I just smiled back and nodded. Not because I understood, but because I didn't know what else to do. My mouth felt dry. My hands were cold. My mind had no English words. I wanted to speak, but nothing came out. That moment stayed with me. It hurt. It made me feel small, like I didn't belong, like I would never be able to speak with others. For a long time, I thought something was wrong with me. I knew people who could talk in English easily. They laughed. They answered questions. They spoke with confidence. And I stayed quiet. I would walk into a shop, and the person at the counter would say something in English. I would panic. I would point to what I wanted and hope they understood. At school, I prayed the teacher wouldn't ask me anything. If a classmate spoke to me in English, I looked away or pretended to be busy. I was scared. Not because I didn't want to speak, but because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want people to laugh. I didn't want to feel that shame again. Inside, I had so many things to say. I wanted to ask people about their day. I wanted to share my thoughts, my ideas, my feelings. But I couldn't. It felt like my thoughts were locked behind a door, and I didn't have the key. That's what not knowing English felt like. Being locked out of a world I wanted to enter. I used to watch people speaking English in movies. They looked so natural, so happy. And I thought, maybe that will never be me. I avoided situations where I had to talk. I missed chances. I stayed in my comfort zone. And the more I stayed silent, the harder it became to try. But then, something changed. I was sitting at home, watching a video. It was simple. A person was teaching how to say hello and how are you in English. The words were slow. The speaker smiled, and for the first time, I understood something. I repeated after the video. Hello. It felt strange, but it also felt good. I said it again. Hello. I looked in the mirror and said it to myself, and that was the first time I felt a little power, a small spark. A voice inside me said, "You just said one English word. That's a start." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. One word. Just one. But it made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I could say more. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I wasn't too late. Maybe I just needed to take small steps. The next day, I tried again. Hello? I said it to my friend. They smiled and said hi back. It was only 1 second, but in that second, something inside me changed. I had started. I had used English. I had faced my fear and spoken out loud. That moment gave me courage. A small win, but it felt big. I wish someone had told me earlier that it's okay to be scared, that it's normal to feel stuck, that not knowing how to talk doesn't mean you'll never learn. All it means is you haven't started yet. And when you do start, even with one small word, your world begins to change. You don't need to speak perfectly. You just need to speak. You just need to try. And when you try, you learn. And when you learn, you grow. And one day, you'll look back, like I am now, and smile. Because the person who once couldn't say anything is now speaking freely. This chapter of my life was dark, full of silence and fear. But even in the dark, I found a light. That light was one small English word, and that light grew, one word at a time. You can find your first word too. Don't wait for perfect English. Don't wait until you feel ready. Just start with one word. Say, hello. Say it to yourself. Say it to the mirror. Say it to someone kind. And when you do, know this: you've already won. Chapter 2. I learned to say hello. After that first small moment in the mirror, I wanted to try again. I kept saying hello to myself. At first, it was just for practice. I said it while walking around the house. I said it while brushing my teeth. I whispered it before going to sleep. Hello. It was a small word, but it had a big feeling. It felt like a door was opening. I started to notice how people around me used it. On the street, I saw people smile and say, hello or hi. I watched videos where people met each other and began with, hey, how are you? I realized something powerful. Every conversation starts with a greeting. If I could learn just this one part, I could begin any talk. I wanted to use it in real life, but I was nervous. What if they don't understand me? What if I say it too quietly or too fast or too strange? My heart beat fast when I walked past someone I knew. I wanted to try. I really wanted to try. And then one day, I did. I was at the small shop near my house. The man behind the counter was always friendly. He smiled at me, and before I could stop myself, I said, hello. Just one word, not a full sentence, not a question, but I said it. He looked at me, smiled again, and said, hello, how are you? I didn't know how to answer yet. I just smiled and nodded. But inside, I was dancing. I had done it. I had used my English. After that day, something in me changed. I started saying hello to more people, to the guard at the school gate, to the old woman sitting on the bench, to a boy in my class. Not everyone answered. Some looked surprised. Some didn't hear me. But that didn't stop me, because I was no longer quiet. I was trying. And trying is how you win. I kept practicing. I learned that hello is not just one word. It's a signal that says, I want to talk. And it's a kind signal, a soft one, a warm one. It doesn't need a long answer, just a smile, just a small reply. Hi. Hello? Hey. I started to play with the word. I tried different greetings. Hi. Hey. Good morning. I listened to how native speakers said them, sometimes soft, sometimes cheerful, sometimes relaxed. I copied their tone. I watched English cartoons and mimicked the way characters said hello. I stood in front of my mirror and tried to say it like them. I wasn't just learning the word, I was learning how to sound natural. And I realized it's okay if I don't sound perfect. The goal was not to sound like a native. The goal was to connect, to speak, to be brave. At school, one day, the teacher entered the room. Usually, I stayed quiet. But this time I said, "Good morning, teacher." My voice shook a little, but she smiled. She said, "Good morning," back. And that smile stayed with me all day. That one greeting made me feel part of the class. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was a student who spoke, a student who tried, and trying is more important than being perfect. That night, I told my parents what I did. They smiled too. My mother said, "One word can change a day." And she was right. That one word had changed mine. It gave me courage. It gave me hope. It gave me belief. I started writing the word hello on sticky notes and put them around the house, on the mirror, on the fridge, on my books. Every time I saw it, I remembered. I can speak. I am learning. I am growing. From then on, I made it my goal. Say hello to one new person every day. Sometimes it was easy. Sometimes it was scary. But every time, it got better. Every time I felt stronger. I was still making mistakes. I was still shy. But now I had a start. I had a tool. And that tool was one word. One small English word. Hello. It became my friend, my key, my superpower. And if you are watching this right now, and you feel afraid to talk, start with hello. Say it now. Say it out loud. Even if you are alone. Even if no one hears you. Say it anyway. It's your first step, and it's a powerful one. When you learn to say hello, you learn to open the door to English. You learn to open the door to people. And you learn to open the door to a new you. Chapter 3. I asked my first question. After I learned how to say hello, my fear started to get smaller. I felt something new, a small light inside me. I could now greet people. I could look them in the eye and say one English word. And that word gave me strength. But deep down, I knew that just saying hello was not enough. If I wanted to really talk to people, I had to ask something. I had to start a conversation. That's how people talk. They ask. They answer. They share. And I wanted that too. I wanted to speak, not just greet. But asking a question in English felt like a big mountain. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know if I would say it correctly. I was afraid of what would happen after I asked. What if they replied fast? What if I didn't understand the answer? What if they didn't hear me? So many what-ifs lived in my head. But I also had something stronger than fear. I had the memory of that first hello. If I could do that, maybe I could do more. So I started with the easiest question I could find. What is your name? Just 5 simple words. I practiced them in my room. What is your name? I said it again and again. I wrote it down. I whispered it to myself. I imagined someone in front of me and said it out loud. I watched videos where people asked this question. I listened to how they said it. I copied their voice, their smile, their tone, and finally, I was ready to try. One day in school, a new student sat beside me. She looked friendly. I smiled. My heart beat fast. I opened my mouth and said, "What is your name?" The words came out slowly, but clearly. She looked at me and said, "My name is Sarah." Then she asked me, "What's your name?" I replied, "I am Ali." We both smiled. That one moment changed everything. I had asked my first real question in English. I had started a conversation. I didn't need to say anything else. That one small exchange made me feel alive. I was not just a learner. I was a speaker. From that day on, I added more questions. Where are you from? Do you like music? What is your favorite food? I picked questions that were simple, questions that I wanted to ask, questions that could start a small, kind talk. I didn't need perfect grammar. I just needed to speak from the heart. I remember asking my cousin, "Do you have pets?" She said, "Yes, I have a cat." I didn't understand everything after that. She talked fast, but I listened. I tried to catch one or two words, and even though I missed a lot, I was happy, because I had asked a question, and she had answered me in English. I was part of the conversation now. I had entered the circle, and I felt proud. Sometimes people didn't understand my question. Sometimes I said the words in the wrong order, but that was okay. Every time I made a mistake, I learned something new. I wrote down my questions. I practiced saying them again. I tried them in front of the mirror. I even made a small notebook with useful questions. I called it my conversation book. I carried it in my bag. Whenever I had free time, I opened it and read one question. Then I imagined someone answering. It was like I was training my brain to talk. I also started watching English interviews, simple ones. I noticed how people asked questions and how others answered. I didn't understand everything, but I understood enough. I learned the power of questions. I saw how one question could make a person smile, could open a door, could build a friendship. That gave me more motivation. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to know more. I wanted to connect. Asking a question is more than just using English. It's about showing interest in someone. It's about reaching out. And when you ask, people see your effort. Most of them will try to help. They will answer slowly. They will smile. They will appreciate your courage. So if you are learning English and feel afraid, start by asking just one question. You don't need to ask many, just one. Practice it. Say it out loud, write it down, and then use it. Use it with your friend, your teacher, your neighbor, or even in an online group. That question can change your life, just like it changed mine. One day I was silent. Then I said, "Hello." Then I asked, "What is your name?" And now I can talk. You can too. Start small. Speak slowly. Don't worry if it's perfect. Worry if you never try, because when you try, you grow. And when you grow, English becomes part of your life. Chapter 4. I talked about myself. After learning to say hello and ask small questions, I felt a little stronger. My fear was not gone, but it was quieter now. I wanted to say more. I wanted to go beyond hello and what is your name. I wanted to tell people about me, about where I was from, about the things I liked, about who I was. But that felt hard. I didn't know how to say those things in English. In my mind, I had the ideas. But turning those ideas into words felt like trying to build a house without tools. I knew I had to start simple. So I began with the sentence, I am from Pakistan. Just 5 words. But those 5 words made me feel seen. I practiced that sentence many times. I am from Pakistan. I said it to the mirror. I wrote it in my notebook. I recorded my voice and listened back. I wanted it to sound clear. I wanted it to sound like me. After that, I added more. I am 18 years old. I am a student. I like football. I like mangoes. Each sentence was a small piece of me, and every time I said one, I felt more confident. I was building my story in English, one brick at a time. One day in class, we had a group activity. The teacher asked us to talk in pairs. My partner looked at me and said, "Tell me about you." For a second, my mouth froze, but then I remembered my sentences. I smiled and said, I am from Pakistan. I am a student. I like English. My sentences were slow and my voice was soft. But they were true. They were mine. My partner listened, and she smiled. She told me about herself too. We laughed. We talked more. It was one of the best moments of my learning journey. That day, I went home and wrote more about myself. I wrote short sentences in English. I have 2 brothers. My father is a doctor. I love music. My favorite color is blue. These were simple lines, but they helped me express who I was. I started keeping a daily English diary. Each day I wrote 1 or 2 new things about myself. Some days it was just, today I feel happy. Other days I wrote, I had tea with my mother. It was not perfect. My grammar was not great. But I was speaking through writing, and that made me feel strong. I began to share small things about myself in real conversations too. When someone asked, "Do you have pets?" I said, "Yes, I have a cat." When they said, "What do you do?" I said, "I study at college." These were not long talks, but they were real. They were me. And when people listened and smiled, I felt brave. I felt like I was part of the world. A world where people use English to know each other, to connect, to grow. Sometimes I made mistakes. I said, I have 2 brothers, or I is student. But people understood. They didn't laugh. They helped. And every mistake taught me something. I learned by doing. I learned by trying. I learned by being okay with being imperfect. That's when I truly understood something powerful. Speaking is not about being right. It's about being real. One afternoon, I was at the park. A tourist asked me, "Where is the main road?" I pointed and said, "It's there." Then I smiled and added, "I am from here. I live near." She smiled back and said, "Your English is good." I didn't know what to say. I just said, "Thank you." But inside, I felt proud. I had shared something. I had helped someone. I had spoken English in real life, and it felt amazing. The more I talked about myself, the more I wanted to learn new words. I wanted to say, I love reading, or I enjoy cooking, or my dream is to travel. So I looked up new words. I made flashcards. I practiced with friends. Slowly, I added more color to my English. It was like painting a picture of me, using new words each day. If you are watching this and you want to talk to people in English, start by talking about you. Say your name. Say your country. Say your favorite food. Say what you like. These are the easiest and most powerful sentences you can speak, because nobody knows your story better than you. And when you share your story in English, people will listen, and you will grow. Chapter 5. I made mistakes, and that was okay. After I started talking about myself in English, I felt good. I was speaking more. I was smiling more. But soon I made a mistake. A small mistake. But to me, it felt very big. I was talking to someone and I said, "She go to school." The person looked confused. Then they smiled and said, "You mean, she goes to school?" I nodded, but inside I felt broken. I felt like I had failed. I walked away and didn't want to speak again. That night, I sat in my room thinking, maybe I am not ready. Maybe I should stop. My confidence was shaking. One small mistake had made me forget all my progress. But then something happened. I remembered something my English teacher once told me. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. I read that line again in a book. I heard it in a video. And slowly, it started to make sense. I thought about babies. When babies learn to walk, they fall. But they get up again. They don't stop trying. Why? Because falling is part of walking, just like mistakes are part of speaking. I realized I was too afraid of looking stupid. I wanted every sentence to be perfect, but English doesn't grow from perfection. It grows from practice. So the next day, I spoke again. I made another mistake. And again, someone corrected me. But this time, I didn't feel sad. I said, "Thank you." I went home and wrote the correct sentence down. I started calling my mistakes teachers, because they were. Each mistake taught me something new. I learned when to use do and when to use does. I learned how to say verbs in the past. I learned when to use a and an. But all this learning didn't come from books alone. It came from my own errors. One day, I was talking to my cousin. I said, "I am boring." He laughed and said, "No, you are not boring. You are bored." I didn't understand at first. Then he explained. Boring means you make others sleepy. Bored means you want to sleep. We laughed together. I never forgot that lesson. That small mistake helped me remember the right word forever. That's how strong mistake-based learning is. It stays with you longer than just reading from a book. After that, I stopped running away from mistakes. In fact, I started writing them down. I had a small notebook where I wrote, "Today's mistake." Every time someone corrected me, I smiled and said, "Thanks, I will write it down." That small change changed everything. People saw that I wanted to learn. They were happy to help me. I was not afraid of looking silly anymore. I was proud that I was trying, and people respected that. Some even said, "I wish I had your courage." I also realized something very important. Native speakers also make mistakes. They forget words. They say the wrong thing. They correct themselves. And nobody laughs at them. because we are human. We learn by doing. And speaking a second language is brave. Every English sentence we speak, even with mistakes, is a sign of our strength. It means we are trying. It means we are growing. And growth is not quiet. Growth is messy, loud, and full of errors. And that's okay. There were times I still felt embarrassed. Once, I said kitchen instead of chicken in front of a group. Everyone laughed. My face turned red. But then someone said, "It's okay, that was funny." And I laughed too. That moment taught me how to laugh at my own mistakes. It taught me not to take things too seriously. If I can smile through my errors, they lose their power, and I become free. If you're watching this video and you feel scared of speaking because of mistakes, I want to say something to you. Don't wait for perfect English. Speak your broken English proudly. Speak it again and again. Let the world correct you. Let your mistakes teach you. Don't hide. Don't stay silent. Your voice is important, even if it shakes, even if it stumbles. Let it speak. Because every time you speak and make a mistake, you win. You win against fear. You win against doubt. You win against silence. And slowly, mistake by mistake, word by word, you become a real English speaker. Chapter 6. I started talking every day. After I learned that making mistakes was okay, something inside me became stronger. I was no longer afraid of small errors. I understood that trying is more important than being perfect. And when I accepted that, I began to speak more. Not just once or twice a week. Not just when someone spoke to me first. I started talking in English every single day. Even when I was alone, even when no one was listening, I made a promise to myself. Every day I will speak something in English. Even one sentence, even one word, but I will speak. And that decision changed everything. At first it was hard. Some days I didn't know what to say. Some days I was tired or shy or busy. But I reminded myself, even 5 minutes is enough. Even a few words are progress. I spoke while brushing my teeth. I spoke while walking to school. I looked in the mirror and said, "Good morning. I am ready today." I didn't wait for people to talk to me. I created my own practice. I imagined conversations in my mind. I acted like I was talking to someone. And slowly, that imagination turned into real power. I started talking to my family in English. Just small things. "This is my book. I am hungry. Let's go outside." My family laughed sometimes, but they were happy. They supported me. My younger brother even joined me. We played a game. Each day we would count how many English words we spoke. It became fun. It became part of our life. I also started talking to my friends in class. I said things like, "Nice pen," or "This is easy," or "Can you help me?" These sentences were small, but they were real. I was using English in life, not just in books. One day I saw a tourist in the market. She looked confused. I felt nervous, but also excited. I went to her and said, "Do you need help?" She smiled and said, "Yes, please." "Where is the pharmacy?" I pointed to the street and said, "Go straight, then left." She said, "Thank you so much." I said, "You're welcome." That was it. A short talk, but it made my whole day better. I felt brave. I felt useful. I had helped someone with my English, and I realized something powerful. When we speak English, we don't just practice. We connect. We help. We grow. Every evening, I gave myself a challenge. Say 3 English sentences today. Then it became 5, then 10. I started talking about my day. Today I woke up early. I ate an egg and bread. I studied for 2 hours. These small talks built my speaking muscles, like exercise. The more I practiced, the easier it got. I didn't wait for a classroom. I made the world my classroom. I talked to myself on the bus. I whispered to myself in the shop. I repeated lines from YouTube videos. I copied native speakers and tried to speak like them. Some people thought I was strange, talking to myself. But I didn't care, because I knew what I was doing. I was building fluency. I was building confidence. I knew that every small sentence made me better. Every day I spoke, I felt stronger. I started recording my voice. Just 1 sentence a day. I am learning English. I love mangoes. My city is beautiful. I played it back and listened. I heard my voice. I noticed my mistakes. I fixed them. And the next day, I was better. I also found language partners online, people who wanted to learn my language. We exchanged English and Urdu. I spoke in English, and they helped me. I helped them too. It felt like teamwork, like we were climbing a mountain together, and every day we climbed a little higher. Every conversation was a lesson. Every new friend was a gift, and I didn't need perfect English to make these friends. I just needed to show my heart, to try, to speak. If you are watching this video and waiting for the perfect day to start speaking, don't wait. Start today. Say 1 sentence out loud, right now. I am learning English. That's it. Say it again tomorrow, and the next day. Build your voice like you build a house. 1 brick at a time. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a classroom. You just need your voice. Use it every day. Speak to your mirror. Speak to your pillow. Speak to your pet. Speak to the world. Because your voice is your power. And when you use it every day, it becomes your strength. Chapter 7. I can talk to people now. And so can you. One day I was sitting in a coffee shop. I looked around and heard people speaking English. 2 girls were laughing. A man was reading a book. A group of students were talking about their homework. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like an outsider. I didn't feel lost or afraid. I felt like I belonged. I understood their words. I understood their questions. And I knew deep in my heart that I could speak with them if I wanted. I was not the same person who once sat quietly, too scared to say hello. I had changed. I had grown. I could talk to people in English now. And that feeling, it was beautiful. It didn't happen in 1 day. It didn't happen in 1 week. It took time. It took courage. It took many small steps. I started with 1 word, then 1 sentence, then 1 question. I made mistakes. I felt shy. But I didn't stop. I kept going. I spoke when I was scared. I spoke when I was tired. I spoke when I didn't have the right words. And slowly, English became my friend. It became my tool. It became a part of me, a part I was proud of. Now, I talk to people in English every day. I ask for directions. I order food. I make new friends. I join online groups. I share my thoughts. I send voice messages. I even help others who are just starting their English journey. And every time I speak, I remember where I started. I remember the fear, the silence, the doubt, and I smile. Because I know anyone can do this. If I can learn to talk to people in English, so can you. You don't need big grammar books. You don't need long, difficult words. You don't need to speak like a native. You just need to speak like you. Real, honest, brave. Say one sentence today. Say one more tomorrow. Don't be afraid if people don't understand. Don't be afraid if you get stuck. It's okay. You are learning. You are growing. You are moving forward. And that is more important than anything else. I still make mistakes. Sometimes I forget words. Sometimes I say things the wrong way. But now I smile. I laugh. I learn. Because speaking English is not about being perfect. It's about being understood. It's about connection. It's about using your voice to meet people, to share ideas, to live your life with more freedom. And when you speak with someone in English, no matter how simple your sentence is, you are creating something powerful, a bridge between your world and theirs. So today, I want you to make a promise, not to me, but to yourself. Promise that you will try. Promise that you will open your mouth and say something. Promise that you will not let fear keep you silent. You don't have to speak fast. You don't have to speak much. But speak. Every word you say builds your future. Every sentence you speak brings you closer to your dream. You are not alone. We are all learning. We are all practicing. And the world is waiting to hear your voice. Your voice matters, even if it shakes, even if it's quiet, even if it's not perfect. It still matters. So go out there. Talk to one person, ask one question, share one thought, and tomorrow, do it again. Step by step, you will become the person who speaks English with ease, with joy, with confidence. And one day, you'll sit in a coffee shop too. You'll listen to the people around you. And you'll smile, just like I did. Because you'll know. You can talk to people in English now. And your journey, your story, your voice, it was worth it. If this video touched your heart or helped you believe in yourself, don't keep it inside. Subscribe to this channel so we can learn and grow together. Like this video if you believe small steps make big change. And comment below. What is the first sentence you will say in English today? Let's speak. Let's grow. Let's do it. Together.